He said it like it was nothing. Relax, let me guide your stretch. But when his hands settled on the back of my thighs and didn't move for a few seconds too long, my breath caught. Something in the air changed. The buzz of dumbbells clanking, music thumping, voices yelling, all of it faded. I looked up, expecting him to be focused on the stretch. Instead, he was already looking at me. Like, really looking. His fingers didn't tremble. His grip didn't slip. He just held the position, watching my face for a reaction. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Because in that moment, under those bright LED lights and the faint scent of sweat and rubber flooring, my body said everything. He finally moved his hands, slowly, like he didn't want to. And then, just before walking away, he smiled. A quiet, careful smile. Not flirtatious. Not professional. Something in between. Something dangerous. I told myself it was all in my head. Just a normal stretch. Just a normal trainer. But the next day, he asked me to stay after class. Alone. I thought he was just helping me stretch. But that moment? It stretched something else, something I wasn't ready to feel. My name is Jason. I'm 24 years old. And a few months ago, I hit a reset button on my entire life. New city. New apartment. New job. And a heart that was still recovering from a breakup that had quietly shattered me. Joining the gym wasn't about a six-pack. It was about routine, control, something to hold on to when everything else felt out of place. That's where I met Drew. He was 29. A certified trainer. Calm. Confident. The kind of guy who didn't need to speak loudly to be noticed. Girls always lingered around his station. He had a laid-back smile and arms that made lifting weights look effortless. When he corrected my posture for the first time, I thought nothing of it. It was professional. But then came the little things. The way he'd rest his hand a bit longer on my shoulder. The way he'd adjust my hips during a squat with both hands, whispering, "Don't be so tense, Jason. Let your body follow. Trust me." And I did. I let him guide me. Even when it confused the hell out of me. He started giving me extra time after class, helping with form, stretches, breathing. He said I had great body awareness. That I was progressing faster than most. I told myself it was just gym talk. Just encouragement. But then I noticed something. He didn't treat the others like this. He didn't linger. He didn't lower his voice when speaking to them. He didn't watch them like he watched me, like he was trying to figure me out, or waiting for something. One time, after I nailed a deadlift, he walked by, leaned in slightly and said, "You've got a strong frame. You'll go far if you stay consistent." It sounded normal. But the way he looked at me afterward, wasn't. And the worst part? I didn't know if I was imagining it. Because I'd been wrong before. In college, I misread a guy's friendliness and leaned in too far. He laughed. Told everyone. The whispers, the looks, the shame, it crushed something in me. Since then, I promised myself, no more guessing games. If someone wasn't clear, I wasn't risking it. And Drew? He wasn't clear. He was friendly. But he was also flirtatious, or maybe I was just desperate to feel seen again. Then one night, after a sweaty session, as I was wiping down my bench, he walked over. "Proud of you," he said. "Most people quit by now. Not you." I smiled awkwardly, unsure what to say. Then he paused, eyes on mine for just a second too long. "Want to stay after?" he asked casually. "I could help with some deeper stretches. If you're up for it." I hesitated. Something about his tone, the way he stood too close. But I said yes. Because maybe I wanted answers. Or maybe, deep down, I wanted that moment back. The one where his hands lingered. And I didn't want him to let go. What I didn't know was that after tonight, things would never feel the same again. The gym was nearly empty when I returned the next evening. It was just past closing time, and the loud thumping playlist that usually echoed through the walls had quieted down into something softer, low, rhythmic, like a heartbeat under dimmed fluorescent lights. Drew was already there, sitting on one of the yoga mats, stretching his shoulders like he was warming up for something personal. "You made it," he said, flashing that same half-smile, calm, unreadable. I gave a small nod. "Yeah. Thought I'd try those deeper stretches you mentioned." "Good," he said. "Let's start." There was something different about the way he spoke. Slower. Quieter. Like the silence between us was intentional, not awkward, but expectant. He guided me through a few simple hamstring stretches. At first, it was normal. Routine. His voice was professional, his instructions clear. But then he moved behind me. His hand slid around my waist as he lowered my back gently, pressing just enough to get a deeper reach. "Breathe through it," he murmured. I did. I inhaled slowly, held it, then let it out through trembling lips. His hands never left my hips. Then he leaned in. His chest brushed against my back. Barely. Maybe an accident. Maybe not. I felt my body stiffen slightly, but not out of discomfort, more like fear. Of what this could be. Of what I might do. "You're holding tension again," he whispered near my ear. "Let go, Jason." I turned my head slightly. His face was so close now. I could smell his cologne, subtle, woodsy, familiar. Our eyes met in the reflection of the mirror on the far wall. He didn't move. Neither did I. "Let me help," he added, and before I could ask what he meant, his hand slid down to the back of my thighs, adjusting the angle of my stretch. His fingers pressed gently, not enough to hurt, but enough to feel everything. And that's when I felt it again, that same pause. He didn't move away. Didn't reposition. His hands just stayed. I swallowed hard, suddenly unsure of everything. Was this still part of the routine? Or had we crossed some invisible line? I wanted to ask. I wanted to say something. Anything. But my voice didn't work. My brain didn't either. Instead, I just stayed there. Letting him hold me like that. Not because I couldn't move, but because I didn't want to. After what felt like hours trapped inside seconds, he slowly pulled his hands back. I sat up, heart pounding, eyes locked forward. Neither of us spoke for a few moments. Then he stood up and casually offered his hand. I hesitated but took it. His grip was warm. Strong. He helped me to my feet and smiled, that same quiet smile from before. "Good work tonight," he said. "You're improving." I wanted to believe that's all it was. But it wasn't. He lingered a second too long before letting go of my hand. And just like that, he turned and started tidying the mats. I stood frozen, my heart still racing, sweat cold now on my back. Was this a game? Was he testing me? Or worse, was I imagining it all? I walked out of the gym without saying goodbye, afraid that if I turned around, I'd see something in his eyes that I wasn't ready to deal with. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every second. Every word. His voice. His hands. The way his breath had touched my skin. I checked my phone obsessively. No text. No missed call. Nothing. But when I showed up for our next session 2 days later, he was already waiting. Smiling. Like nothing had ever happened. That stretch? It changed everything. And now? I couldn't tell what scared me more, that he meant it, or that he didn't. I walked into the gym 2 days later like I was stepping onto thin ice. Careful. Calculated. My thoughts were a storm, second-guessing everything I felt, everything he did. But Drew? He greeted me with the same casual smirk, tossed me a towel, and said, "You ready to kill it today?" Like nothing had happened. Like that stretch session, those lingering hands, that silence between us, was a dream I imagined into existence. I nodded, pretending everything was fine. But inside, I was unraveling. The session went on. He didn't touch me more than necessary. Didn't whisper anything. Didn't hold my gaze. It should have made me feel better. But somehow, it made me feel worse. Was I crazy? Was I just another client in his routine? I finished a set and slumped onto the bench, wiping sweat from my neck. Drew came over and handed me a bottle of water. "Don't skip hydration," he said. "You look wiped." "I'm fine," I muttered. He crouched next to me, his eyes scanning my face. "You sure?" I didn't answer right away. My throat felt dry, and not from dehydration. I hesitated. "Rough week." He nodded like he understood something deeper. "Want to talk about it?" I shrugged, avoiding his gaze. Not much to say. But something cracked in me. Maybe it was the way he didn't push. Or the fact that for the first time, he wasn't playing it cool. So I told him. About the breakup. The one that made me feel invisible. The relationship where I was always the one trying, while the other person acted like I was a secret to be hidden. I told him about the way that kind of rejection sticks, how it makes you afraid to misread people. To hope. To feel. I didn't mean to tell him all of that. But once I started, I couldn't stop. He listened. Not in the way people pretend to. He really listened, no interruptions, no pity in his eyes. When I finally stopped talking, I felt bare. Exposed. Like I'd just handed over every piece of me and waited for him to flinch. Instead, he reached out and gently wiped sweat from my brow with the edge of a towel. His hand lingered for a second longer than necessary. "You didn't deserve that," he said quietly. Those 4 words hit harder than any weight I'd ever lifted. Thanks, I whispered, barely able to look at him. He stood up, tossed the towel aside, and said, "Come on. Let's take 5." We sat outside the gym, on a low concrete step. The sun had started setting, warm, soft light falling across the pavement. He unwrapped a protein bar and handed me half. "Eat," he said. "You'll feel better." I stared at him. "You always do this with your clients?" He chuckled. "Only the stubborn ones." I smirked, then took a bite. There was a silence between us, not awkward this time, but comforting. He leaned back on his hands and said, "You know? I used to think I had everything figured out. Fitness, focus, discipline. No time for distractions. And now?" I asked. He turned his head slightly, looking at me, really looking. "Now I'm starting to realize, some distractions are worth it." My heart did that annoying thing again, skipped, stumbled, tried to catch up. He didn't say anything else. Didn't reach for me. Didn't push. Just gave me space, and a signal. I sat there, unsure what to do with the moment. But I knew something had changed. The tension wasn't about uncertainty anymore. It was something deeper now. Something emotional. And suddenly, the gym didn't feel like a routine anymore. It felt like the one place I didn't have to hide who I was becoming. As we stood to head back inside, he paused, looked at me again, and said, "You know, Jason, sometimes we hold ourselves back for so long, we forget how good it feels to just let someone hold us." He didn't mean physically. He meant emotionally. And I think, I wanted that. Maybe even from him. He wasn't just stretching my body anymore. He was stretching the parts of me I'd been too afraid to feel. Something shifted after that day. I could feel it. The sessions continued, sets, stretches, small talk, but the emotional weight lingered like a pause that never got resolved. The things we didn't say started to feel louder than anything we did. And slowly, I began to pull away. It wasn't intentional. I didn't text him back right away. I started showing up late for sessions. I avoided eye contact during stretches. Because every time I looked at him, I felt something building. And I didn't know if I could handle it. The truth? I was scared. Scared that maybe I wasn't imagining it. Scared that maybe he did feel something. And even more terrified that he didn't. So I did what I always did when something got too real, I ran. Emotionally, anyway. And Drew noticed. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked one evening as I packed up early. I looked up quickly. "What?" "You've been distant," he said, softer now. "You used to talk more. Laugh. Now it feels like you're just going through the motions." I shrugged. "Just tired." He nodded, lips pressed tightly together. "Right. Of course." But his eyes? His eyes looked hurt. He stepped back, giving me space. "If you want to train with someone else, I'll understand." I froze. "What? No. That's not it." "Then what is it, Jason?" he asked. Because I thought, never mind. He turned, heading toward the front desk. "Drew," I started. But he was already walking away. I stood there in the middle of the gym, dumbbells clanking in the distance, the smell of rubber mats and chalk filling the space between us. And I hated myself for doing it. For making him feel like he had crossed a line, when really, it was me running from a feeling I didn't know how to process. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at my phone, at his last text from 2 days ago. "Don't overthink this. Just breathe." Simple. Caring. Him. And still, I never replied. The next morning, I skipped the gym. And the morning after that. I told myself I was just giving it space, letting things cool down. But deep down, I knew, I was scared of what would happen if I saw him again. Would he act like nothing happened? Would he confront me? Would he ignore me? And what did I want him to do? The questions spun in my head, and none of the answers felt safe. On the third night, I walked past the gym after hours. It was closed. The lights were dim. But inside, I could see him. Alone. Sweeping up. Earbuds in. Focused. Something about it hit me hard. He wasn't some puzzle to solve. He wasn't playing a game. He was just Drew. The guy who held me a little too long, but maybe because he wanted to. Not because it was a move, but because he was afraid to. I stood outside, watching through the glass for a long time. I almost knocked. Almost walked in and said something, anything. But I didn't. I turned away. And that night, lying in bed, all I could think about was the way his hand felt on my back. The way he'd whispered, "Let go, Jason." And maybe, that's what I was finally ready to do. I thought keeping my distance would protect me. But all it did, was show me how much I missed being close to him. The rain was soft but steady as I walked the cracked pavement outside my apartment. I didn't have a destination, just the weight of everything pressing on my chest. My thoughts kept looping back to him. To Drew. To that damn stretch. I passed by the gym without meaning to. The lights were low, just the glow of the front desk monitor illuminating part of the space. It was long past closing time. But someone was inside. I stopped, pressed my hand gently to the glass. It was him. Drew was wiping down benches, headphones in, soaked in dim golden light. He didn't see me at first. I don't know what made me do it, but I reached for the handle. The door was unlocked. The soft jingle startled him. He turned quickly. We locked eyes. He pulled his earbuds out slowly. Jason. I nodded, my voice catching in my throat. I think I left my gloves. He tilted his head, a half-smile tugging at his lips. You don't use gloves. I let out a shaky breath. Right. Silence stretched between us, not tense, but real. Like the space between words that matter. I've been distant, I finally said. Yeah, he replied, voice low. I noticed. Another beat passed. I looked down at the floor, ashamed. I thought pulling back would make this easier. But it didn't. I just didn't know what this was. Or what it meant. He took a step closer, not rushing, not pushing. His voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. You didn't imagine it, Jason. My eyes flicked up. What? He swallowed. That stretch. That moment. It wasn't just you. I felt it too. The gym hummed with silence. The rain tapped lightly against the windows. And my chest felt like it had finally exhaled after holding its breath for weeks. I stepped closer. So now what? I asked. He didn't answer with words. Just walked over, slow and certain, until there was only a breath between us. He reached for my hand. Held it gently. I don't know where this goes, he said. But I know I want to find out, if you do. I squeezed his hand, just slightly. And for the first time, I wasn't scared. Not of what it was. And not of what it could become. In that quiet gym, with the rain whispering outside, I finally stopped running, and started reaching. It started with morning sessions again. But everything felt different now. We didn't speak about it, not in words. Not yet. But the silence between us had changed. It was softer. Open. When Drew placed his hand on my back to guide a stretch, I didn't flinch. When I brushed his arm walking past him, I didn't apologize. Something had shifted, not just in the way we moved, but in how we looked at each other. And that unspoken tension that once held fear, now felt like anticipation. One night after closing, he asked if I wanted to grab a smoothie nearby. I nodded, probably too fast. We sat at a booth by the window, a place neither of us had ever been before. He sipped his drink quietly, then glanced at me. Can I ask you something? Sure, I said, even though I was already bracing myself. That day, he said, the first time we did the stretch, what did you feel? I looked at him. Really looked. His eyes weren't testing me. They were searching. I swallowed. Like the air stopped moving. Like you were holding more than my legs. He exhaled slowly. That's exactly how it felt for me too. My heart thudded. You didn't say anything, I said. I wasn't sure I was allowed to, he replied. You were a client. I didn't want to cross a line you didn't invite me to cross. You already did, I said, not with blame, but with honesty. But maybe. I wanted you to. He nodded, eyes glancing down at his hands. I've spent most of my life hiding that part of me, he admitted. I told myself it was easier. That no one needed to know. And then you walked into my gym. Was I that obvious? I teased, trying to soften the moment. He smiled. No. But you were honest. In a way that scared me. And I think I wanted to feel that. He paused, then added, when you pulled away, I thought I blew it. I was scared too, I said. I've been with people who made me feel like I had to shrink to fit into their lives. And then suddenly, you were there, holding me. Not just physically. It scared me more than I want to admit. His hand reached across the table, fingers brushing mine. I've never been this open with anyone, he whispered. My fingers curled around his. Me neither. The world outside the window blurred. Rain again. Just like that night. We sat in silence for a while. But this silence didn't ask for words. It was the words. Later that night, we stood outside the gym. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. The pavement shimmered under the streetlight. I don't know what this is yet, I said, watching the way the drops danced off the curb. But I know I don't want to run from it anymore. Drew stepped closer, his voice low. Then don't. I looked up. His eyes held every emotion I'd tried so hard to avoid: fear, longing, relief, and something else. Hope. He reached for me again, this time slower, as if giving me every second to back away. I didn't. His hand found my cheek, warm and steady. And then, he leaned in. The kiss was soft. Careful. It wasn't rushed or full of heat. It was something far more dangerous. It was real. When he pulled back, we didn't speak. There was nothing left to clarify. No need for definitions. Just the sound of rain. And breath. His forehead rested against mine, and he whispered, "I've waited a long time to feel like this. With someone I'm not afraid to be real around." I smiled, eyes closed. Then let's not waste it. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not because someone picked me, but because I let myself be seen, and they stayed. We stood in the rain until it didn't matter anymore. Because inside that stillness, he was holding me again. Not too long. Not too short. Just right. I thought he was just helping me stretch, but in the end, he was the one who helped me open up. It's funny how one small moment can change everything. One touch. One look. One stretch held just a second too long. A month passed since that night in the rain. Since the kiss. Since I stopped running. And in those few weeks, life didn't become perfect. But it did become honest. Drew and I didn't label anything right away. We didn't announce ourselves to the world, didn't suddenly become the couple everyone in the gym stared at. But there were glances. Smiles held across the mirror. A brush of the hand during a set. And the kind of comfort that doesn't need to be spoken to be felt. The first time he called me babe under his breath while correcting my posture, I almost dropped the weight I was holding. I laughed, blushed, and he just winked like it was the most natural thing in the world. He still trained other clients. Still carried himself with the same cool confidence. But with me, there was softness. And presence. After our sessions, we'd grab coffee, sometimes take long walks before the sun fully came up. We talked about everything, the relationships that broke us, the dreams we were too afraid to say out loud, and the weird things that made us laugh until we couldn't breathe. It wasn't just about attraction anymore. It was about trust. And the quiet safety we both thought we'd never find. One morning, I walked into the gym earlier than usual. He was already there, setting up weights. I stood by the entrance and watched him, completely in his zone, headphones in, hair still damp from the shower, shirt clinging slightly to his chest. And I realized, I wasn't scared anymore. Not of being seen. Not of being wanted. And not of falling for someone who could actually hold me, emotionally, this time, and never let go. Later that day, as we sat outside with our usual post-workout shakes, he turned to me and said something I wasn't expecting. "I've never introduced someone to my mom," he said quietly. I blinked. "Okay. But I want to," he added. "You don't have to say yes now. Just, think about it." I smiled, heart pounding. "Only if I get to meet the woman responsible for your legendary protein pancake recipe." He laughed. "Deal." That was the thing with Drew, he didn't make big promises. He just showed up. Every day. Consistent. Present. Real. And in return, I learned how to stay. No more hiding. No more pretending I didn't feel what I felt. It wasn't about the gym anymore. It wasn't about the stretch. It was about everything that came after. The vulnerability. The growth. The gentle way he reminded me, through every look, every touch, that love doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it arrives in silence. In breath. In moments where your body speaks before your heart catches up. And now, when people at the gym ask how we met, I just smile and say, let's just say, he held me longer than I expected. And thank God he did. Because sometimes, it's in the moments you least expect. In the quietest of pauses. That you finally feel seen. Have you ever felt something real during a moment that felt ordinary? Something small, that turned into everything? Tell me below. I'm listening.